Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Yashoda Jayo Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Govardhari Radha Govardhari Sri Radhe Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Giri Govardhan. Krishna Balaram Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bol Sri Krishna Janmastami Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Well, thank you very much, and definitely very warm welcome to all the guests for today's festivities. It is really through Srila Prabhupada's mercy, that incredible mercy, that we have access to the amazing treasure which is called Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? And within this treasure of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the beautiful narrations of Krishna's pastimes as well as the pastimes of his devotees. And indeed it is our great fortune to have that access, to have that opportunity, to have that ability to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. A very similar opportunity was there also for Maharaj Parikshit. Now, for 7 days we know that Maharaj Parikshit was cursed that he will meet his death after 7 days. And for the 4 days out of those 7, Maharaj Parikshit heard the content and all the different narrations within the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So 4 days he's listened very attentively, very carefully. And at the end of the 9th canto, you know how the 9th canto finishes? It finishes, you know, sometimes, well, some people do watch serials, right? And at the end of a serial, there's always, what did they call it? A cliffhanger. Yeah. Right? They give something very, very interesting, very, very special, and really make you feel, my God, I want to come back. Now, this particular cliffhanger was on a different platform altogether. Because through the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, that prema, the love for Krishna within Maharaj Parikshit's heart was rising and rising and rising and rising. And by the end of 9th canto, it reached a very, very high level, huge heights. Right? And at that point, Shukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit that Lord Krishna will be born in Mathura. And very soon, just maybe so we can kind of pay attention to how short and how concise that statement. I think it was just one verse, 4 lines, basically in a few sentences. This was the cliffhanger. That Lord Krishna will be born in Mathura, and very soon after his birth, he will leave his parents and he will find himself in Vrindavan, surrounded by his devotees. Then after that, he will leave to Mathura. He will kill Kamsa. Then after that, he will go to Dwarka and spend some time there. And after Dwarka, Krishna will declare the victory on the battlefield of Kurukshetra for Arjuna. And then he will instruct Uddhava about the mystical science of devotional service. And at the very end, Krishna will depart this world in his original form. Now, this was all that Maharaj Parikshit heard at the 9th canto, right? And that was the end of that particular chapter. Shri Radha Govardhana Dhari ki jai, Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Beautiful. It will help us to develop that feeling of separation, I think, when curtains close. So at the start of 10th canto, Maharaj Parikshit really wanted to hear more. And he thought, I waited for all these 4 days. I waited to hear that nectar. And his level of prema was kind of matching that kind of need to hear about Krishna. So he begins to speak to Shukadev Goswami. And this is one of those unique places in Bhagavatam, which is the beginning of the 10th canto, the first chapter, where it doesn't say the king said. Usually we see Raja Uvacha, which means the king said. Here it says Sri Raja Uvacha, which is perhaps the only place in Bhagavatam. So what does Sri mean? It's beautiful. Sri is also the name of Lakshmi. And Sri is also the name of Srimati Radharani. Right? And Srimati Radharani is the embodiment of Krishna's love. And Raja at this particular point, actually, I think it's mentioned in Vaishnava Toshani, that Raja at this point doesn't actually mean king, because Raja also means to shine. Isn't it, Navdeep, right? Raja means to be very lustrous, which means the love within Maharaj Parikshit or Parikshit's heart. Within the heart of this great devotee was so abundant that he was shining. And that's why it says Sri Raja Uvacha. And what did he say? Okay, well, he wants to encourage Shukadev Maharaj to speak more, to really explain in detail of what happened over there. Why did Krishna leave Mathura? What happened there in Vrindavan? But he begins in a very kind of a very refined way, right? Very beautiful way. He says, Katitam kam vamshavistaro bhavata somasuryayo ragyam chobhaya vamshyanam charitam paramadbhutam. He says, my dear Shukadev, you have described the kings in many dynasties, and out of many dynasties there were 2 dynasties of Soma and Surya, whose activities you've described in very beautiful way. Now there were 2 dynasties of kings. One is the Soma, one is the Surya. Who is Surya? Sun god. And who is Soma? Moon god. Now who is more important? Sun. Yeah, because everywhere you see Surya Narayan, Surya Bhagavan, Surya Namaskar. In Sanskrit, there are the rules of Dvandva Samasa, right? When you put 2 words together, in order to use those 2 words as one word. And there's a rule that the word which is more important should be the first one, right? The significant one is the first one. When we glorify our deities, what do we usually say when we look to the left of the altar? Gaur Nitai, because the focus is on Lord Chaitanya. And in the middle, Radha Krishna. Now, who is more important? Radha. And then over there to this side of the altar we say Krishna Bharam. Krishna is more important. So the focus is on the first word in this samasa. Also in Sanskrit, when you say parents, it's actually English word parents kind of came from the Sanskrit mata pitaro. Mata pitaro, right? So parents is mother and father. Who is the first? Mother. Yeah. So forever debate is solved at this point. So Mata Pitaro. Say Mata Pitaro. And of course there are rules when you drop the first part in the Dvandva Samasa, so you end up with Pitaro. And then somehow the word through the ages traveled, across the oceans, ended up Pitaro, parents. And then kind of people forgot that Mata Pitaro, Mata is the most important. So going back to this samasa, when Maharaj Parikshit says, okay, well, there's the Soma dynasty and there's the Surya dynasty, did he make a mistake? Because he placed sun god last and moon god first. Did he make a mistake? No. Then why did you do that? Yes, thank you very much. Because the Moon dynasty was really blessed. Blessed because Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chose that dynasty to appear. And then, of course, you've got the Surya dynasty with Bhagavan Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra appearing over there. Very proper, very kind of shining with the moral codes. And then there is the Soma dynasty where Krishna appears. But before Parikshit asks Shukadev to speak about Krishna, he actually kind of zooms in that encouragement for Maharaj Parikshit. He says, Yadoscha dharmashilasya nitaram muni sattama. So he says, in this dynasty of the moon god, there was king by name Yadu. You know how we say Yadavas, right? So Yadavas are descendants of Yadu. And he says, Yadoscha dharmashilasya. So there was Yadu who was very dharmic. What does dharmic mean? Like religious, dutiful, proper, right? But if we read about Yadu Maharaj, what did Yadu Maharaj do? His father asked him to do something, and he said no. Is that dharmic? No. Right. So how's that Yadoscha Dharmashilasya of Yadu, who is very religious, very proper, then Krishna decides to appear there. And why is it that he is Dharmashila? Remember in the story of Yadu Maharaj, his old father, very old father, and we still have to follow the father, right? But what did his father ask him? Yeah, I said, can you give me your youth? Because I'm really old and I kind of didn't finish my enjoyment. And Yadu refused. He said no. And Yadu was also a very great devotee. It's a very kind of a morally interesting story because Yadu was really serving the Lord, serving Lord Narayan, right, Lord Vishnu. And he knew that to do his service, he needs his youth, he needs his energy. At old age, it's very difficult to serve. So he refused his father. And his dharma as such, as it's explained in commentaries, is kind of that superior dharma when we think about the priorities. And he decided not to follow his father, but to follow the dharma of the soul, of being a servant of Krishna. And then Maharaj Parikshit says, so Lord Vishnu decided to appear in this particular dynasty, in the dynasty of the moon god. And after that, he's begging Shukadev Goswami to please speak in great detail. What you said in 4 sentences, it's a really bad cliffhanger. Why is it a bad cliffhanger? Because I need to hear more. Please do not torment me. And then at the start of this chapter, this is the first chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says few beautiful, beautiful verses. And in one verse kind of makes me always think, well, these topics of 10th canto, at least as devotees, we were always told that, look, you need to be very pure to hear the topics of the 10th canto. You need to be very exalted to hear what to say, speak. And then kind of when I read the first line of the next verse, I thought to call Madhurangi and say, look, I don't think I can give class. Because the first line of this verse says, Nivrittatarshai rupagiyamanat. It says that these topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 10th canto, are sung, upagiyamanat, nivrittatarshai. And nivrittatarshai means people whose hearts are completely pure. Right? There are no material desires whatsoever. Last time I checked, it wasn't me. Like that. Nivrittatarshai upagiyamanat. Right? And Shukadev uses the word upagiyamanat. I mean, those people whose hearts are completely pure, they sing the glories of the Lord. Upagiyamanat. Upa means uchai. What does uchai mean? Like very loudly. Right? They feel so overwhelmed, overpowered by hearing Krishna's glories that they sing very loudly. I mean, kind of a side phenomenon in India, sometimes, when there is any kind of a event, they always put big loudspeakers. You've noticed that? Right? And very, very loud. So that's called upagiyamanat. But in the genuine way, sometimes when you go around Govardhan, you may have noticed, especially you do a night parikram, those carts, with wheels. And then you've got these speakers with some kind of a tape recorder. And they blast the speaker in the middle of the night so loud, right? But it does kind of blast the bhajan. It's beautiful, it's nice. And there's a fellow who kind of is in charge of that cart. He usually sleeps right under this loudspeaker. Has a good dream. But anyway, coming back to this shloka, says that whenever there is that kind of a situation where a person is freed from all desires, then he does want to sing loudly. And that's a little bit difficult because it's a very high criteria. But thankfully, there is a second line in this verse, which opens up for us the opportunity to continue with this class. And the second line says, Bhava Shodhat Shrotra Mano Bhiramat. It says that these topics are also like Bhava Oshadhi. And Oshadhi, I think people who are in Ayurveda, right, into Ayurveda, they know that Oshadhi is a medicine, right? And it's a very special medicine because it's a medicine from Bhava. And Bhava means, what is it? Pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. The 5 factors of the material existence. I can't remember what they are, but they're not good. What?
Just before death.
Just before death, yes. Pa, pa, ba, ma. Ma is the mritu, the death, right? And there's the foam and everything else. Basically, yes. Yeah. Yeah, swear, yeah, all not good things. And then, as well as the suffering that this material world brings. And topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are like that medicine. But it's getting even better. So in this particular case, yeah, I need the medicine. So I guess I'm in the right place. But it gets even better. Because when we go to a doctor to get a medicine, and I'm not looking at the Ayurvedic people, but generally, if it's an Ayurvedic medicine, have you tasted Ayurvedic medicines? Have you tried to give Ayurvedic medicines to your children? Oh, Ayurvedic medicines, no. They're not very pleasant, right? Well, many medicines are not pleasant, right? Medicines are usually you take through your mouth, and you take the medicine, sometimes you put eye drops, very painful, eye drops, very painful, right? But this medicine is different. So Shukadev Goswami, Parikshit, he says, Bhavaushadhat Shrotra Mano Bhiramat. He said, this is such a beautiful medicine that we've received from probably the best doctor ever. Because this medicine is Shrotra Mana Abhirama. What does Rama mean? Pleasure. Pleasure. So this medicine is actually very, very pleasing, right? And you don't even need to take through your mouth. Where do you take the medicine from? Through? Yeah, just drink. You drink like a nectar through your ears. Right? And Shrotra Mana, and because ears are very close to the mind, and that's probably one of the biggest causes of issues. So, Shrotra Mana Bhiramat, once this medicine goes through your ears and goes to your mind, it just becomes very, very pleasing. But Maharaj Parikshit said, who will refuse this medicine? So we're on it, right? Is that what we say, right? We're on it. We got to take the medicine. Now, furthermore, continuing to encourage Shukadev Goswami to speak, and first chapter is about the appearance of the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit says, Pitamaha me samare amaran jayai. The verse actually will be about his relatives as well as the great fighters. But the idea of the verse is that those people who have developed that taste and interest in hearing about Krishna, things just become easy for them. And you might actually find it in your lives, right? Whenever we kind of think about Krishna, things kind of start falling into place. Or sometimes they fall into place and then we say, oh, Krishna, thank you. Like that. But thinking about Krishna makes things easier. And at this point, Parikshit says, you know, my forefather, no, it's actually his close relatives, Pandavas, were really outnumbered on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And they were fighting against Devavrata Adi. Devavrata is another name for Bhishma Dev. Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. They're powerful warriors. The word used there to describe those warriors refers to an animal that doesn't exist, or maybe it does exist, but we don't see it anymore. It's called Timingila fish. Have you guys seen Timingila fish? Okay, let's get closer. Have you seen whales? Right? So whales. So just to put it in perspective, whales can be easily swallowed by a Timingila fish. So that's Timingila. Right? And those fighters like Bhishma and Drona and Kripa, they were like Timingilas on the battlefield. You can't fight them. Right? And yet, because Pandavas have taken shelter of Uttama Shloka, they have taken shelter of Lord Krishna. For them, that ocean of those Timingilas, not just one Timingila, there were many of those Timingilas swimming around and swallowing the warriors. It said that ocean that was filled with Timingilas became just like what? Do you guys remember that comparison? Such a beautiful comparison, actually makes me always laugh. He says that ocean of Timingilas, big fish that were swallowing other warriors, became like you know when a calf walks in the mud, right? Then leaves a footprint. And sometimes when it's mud, it fills with water, right? So it says Vatsapadam. So it becomes just like that water in a little place where just calf walked and there's a little bit of water left. That's how easy things become. That's how the ocean, that's how the ocean where great Timingila fish swim becomes just like that small footprint of calf. Is it easy to cross over the calf footprint? Yeah, it's quite sweet as well, isn't it, to see calf footprint? Have you guys seen calf footprint? Right? If not, please visit Goshala. You'll see some calf footprints. Really cute. I just remember calf footprints because, you know, in Bhishma Panchaka, it's like 5 days of at the end of Kartik Vrat. Right? If you couldn't fast during Kartik Vrat, devotees say, okay, you do that special fast at Bhishma Panchaka, and some devotees go into that Bhishma Panchaka fast. And then you kind of do crazy things, but at the end you do kind of the most powerful one, which is don't eat anything, but you take one of the days you take a little bit of urine from Jai Shri Radha Govardhana Dhari Ki Jai. Now, there's a specious word that I said because it's a urine from a calf, right? And then you actually drink that. Yeah, it's quite interesting fasting principle that you can follow. And then remembering that because we were running around in Vrindavan and Goshala after calves, trying to get the fresh urine that didn't touch the ground. And there were a lot of small, hoof prints or footprints. Anyway, returning back to the verses, Parikshit Maharaj goes on further, and he's really encouraging Shukadev to speak. He says, Dronya straviproshtam idam madangam. Not just that things can become very easy or very kind of smooth when we do remember Krishna, when we are Krishna conscious, but also Krishna can protect from greatest dangers. And what danger did Parikshit Maharaj found himself in? Well, not as Maharaj, as a little child in the womb of Uttara. What happened? It was a big danger, right? It is Brahmastra. It's the most powerful weapon that was thrown by Ashwatthama, is that correct? Ashwatthama, right? And then his body was burning within the womb. But because his mother was a great devotee of the Lord, Krishna has entered Atta Chakra, and then in this verse it says Atta Chakra. Chakra means he was holding the chakra, but I think in the first canto of Bhagavatam it said that he was using his club, right? He had a little, sometimes you go to the festivals and people move like lights or some kind of fires, like really fast. Have you seen those? Yeah, and it looks like a circle, right? So that's how fast Lord Vishnu was moving his club, that it created a complete protection for Maharaj Parikshit within the womb of Uttara. So he's glorifying in this way Shukadev Goswami, and he's asking him at this to please speak more about the activities of the Lord. Now, where's Madhurangi? what time do we need to finish? Because we were supposed to speak about how Krishna appeared. And it's just now coming.
You don't have to worry because Kumbi's going to read.
Kumbi was going to read. Okay.
You've built it up, you've left us on a cliffhanger.
I guess it is the cliffhanger. And then I guess that kind of brings that desire to hear about Krishna more. But through these beautiful verses at the start of the first chapter of 10th canto, we can really see that desire of Maharaj Parikshit to hear. So I'd like to invite all the devotees to continue with this mood of the festival. And when Kumbi begins to read the appearance of the Lord, this is exactly actually where these verses will continue of how Krishna has appeared. Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.